Hey guys, Scott here with a new beer dissection video. Before you tune away, hang in there for a minute. I'll explain why I'm doing this beer today. But what I'm reviewing is the good old classic Stella Artois International Pale Lager. Okay. Listen, I've been doing my channel for a little bit now, and I try to review beers that are, obviously a lot of high-end beers, craft breweries, classic beers that people really love. I also feel because a lot of times people are drinking, domestic lagers, American lagers, high commercial brands. And I feel I'm doing a beer channel. I might as well do all the beers that are out there, whether it's something that's very popular and well-made, or other beers that are probably well-made, but maybe not as popular, and all kind of combinations of 3 or 4 of those elements. So that's why I wanted to kind of revisit a beer that I actually haven't had. When I was in Italy a handful of years ago or so was probably the last time I really had it, the Stella Artois. So I always just think that, you can't just review, beers from Equilibrium, Hill's Farmstead, or Alchemist, or your local brewery. You have to do some of these commercial beers that are big beer, international pale lagers and stuff like that. So I think this is the first one. I just recently did a Munich Helles, which is a German style, but I was always talking about international pale lager. I'm like, wait, I never really did a international pale lager video. And I'm not going to do necessarily a whole what is style on this and make it a lot longer, but international pale lagers like Stella Artois, and even think Corona falls into that category, St. Pauli Girl, Grolsch, those types of beers. I wouldn't even be surprised if like Labatt's and stuff, even though it's Canadian, that because a lot of these other ones seem to be more European for the most part, would fall into that category. International pale lager versus, say, Budweiser or American lager or American light lager. You're usually going to get, first of all, the alcoholic strength has a bigger range. It's usually about 4.5% to 6% alcohol. It's going to have a little bit more hop character to it, spicy, floral, herbal, than a American lager, but not as much as, say, a German Pilsner or a Munich Helles. Same thing with the malt. You may get a little bit more malt character than the American versions, American light lager, and American lager in general, but they also will use, some of them will use adjuncts too, like corn and rice, like the American lager. So it's kind of like an American lager, American light lager, just maybe elevated a little bit more, okay? These international pale lagers, probably like Carlsberg is probably another one. And if I sat here long enough, I probably would think of a few others that I'm not, recollecting right now. But I feel, we need to do these beers too, right? I've done beers on, beer face-off videos with, I think, Corona versus Budweiser. I've done some blind. I've done them, just what was my opinion on it. Because, again, a lot of people purchase these beers. I mean, they're buying this beer, which, again, Stella Artois, I don't know if it's a Budweiser product, AB InBev, Anheuser-Busch, Stella Artois, St. Louis, but, it does get marketed like a Belgian beer. Sometimes you will see this in one of those Belgian packs that they'll have, drawing a blank on it, Leffe, if I'm pronouncing it right. They give the illusion that it's like a true, authentic Belgian beer from Belgium, and it's really just kind of a mass-marketed beer that's produced. But these can be very refreshing. They're going to pour in like a lager, American lager. They're going to pour in like a Munich Helles, more quality German Pilsner. But they're going to have definitely different characteristics. This is going to have less body than a Pilsner beer, as well as a Czech premium pale lager like your Pilsner Urquell, but it's going to have more than the American lager. So it's kind of sitting there, in my opinion, or my interpretation through my studies of all these beer styles and tasting and everything. It's going to hover between that American lager, Budweiser, Coors, you name it, Miller, and your quality German Pilsners, Munich Helles. And again, I don't want to compare this beer to those authentic German Pilsners, but as far as the profile of malt, it's kind of like if Budweiser and everything and Miller was down here, These international pale lagers are kind of right here, and then you get the good authentic German Pilsners, Munich Helles and stuff way up at the top in the world of light lagers, okay? Because these all are lagers. This one's probably going to be a lot more crushable and things like that. So, you know, I'm glad you stay tuned in to watch this one. We'll kind of review it. I haven't had this, and like I said, at least, God, I think it was 5 years ago or so last time I had it. This one, and I think Peroni. Now, remember, this is a green bottle. What am I going to say about green bottles, right? They can get light struck very easily. This one I don't know about. If you're going to buy these green bottles and you just can't resist because it's a style of beer you like, try to get them in the cardboard box, okay, the 12-pack. That will protect it from the light a little bit. Some of the beer styles, though, have kind of been assimilated to that skunkiness, and it's 3-methylbutylthiol is the compound that the light interacts with the hops that gives you that skunkiness. And I got to admit, as I'm sitting here and I just cracked that bottle open while I was talking to you, or my camera, that I think I got a whiff of that skunkiness, or that you'll hear me say 3 MBT in my videos. I think I did a whole video about some off flavors and stuff like that. But again, some of these brands like Corona is known for it. It's almost become part of the flavor and aromatic profile of these beers, that they're just used to it. But again, the green bottles are horrible. In home brewing, we never like to use green bottles either because, again, the interaction of the light with the hops, and it creates that 3-MBT compound that gives that skunky smell and flavor. You may enjoy it, you know, hot summer day, you know, or you've had a few beers in and you're like, don't really care anymore. That's fine. But so you try to avoid the green bottles at all costs if you can. All right, but let's pour this out. Let's taste this. Okay. Actually using my nice Tiku glass that I got recently. I think in one of my videos I said I had broken a bunch of glasses. So this is a little overkill. I don't usually use a Tiku glass for my international pale lagers, but let's look at it. There is a nice little head there, you know, about an inch head, pretty tight white bubbles. You know, looks pretty. It's perfectly clear, like you would expect for this style. You would want it to be. I'm a little rusty on the IBU units on this style. I want to say it's somewhere between like 8 and 15, give or take. Again, I'm a little rusty on there, but nice, you know, gold, light gold color, perfectly clear. Nice head. You know, looks like kind of that, you know, patio crusher type of beer. So let's take a sniff of the aroma. Oh yeah. This one is definitely skunked. Okay, now remember with skunkiness, it's not the temperature changes. Okay, now listen, you don't want major fluctuation in your beers, but don't go crazy if it's in the refrigerator and you leave it out and then you put it back in the refrigerator like once or twice. It's not a huge deal. But the light struck of any of these bottles, especially green bottles or clear bottles, other than Miller. Remember, Miller beer uses tetra hops, which are like immune to, it's like probably a Frankenstein hop creation, that they're immune to the skunkiness. But this definitely has some 3-MBT. Now, if I let it go, okay, there is some skunkiness there, but I'll tell you what, I do get a little bit of that graininess from the malt, you know, wheat grain, even though they're not using wheat in this. Flour, you know, white bready kind of malt on there. So nothing darker than that. But as I keep taking it in, I'm smelling the skunkiness less and less. It may be a little more volatile, and it's coming out a little bit, but it definitely is still there. But there's a little grainy, you know, malt profile there. I'm not going to try to overanalyze this one too much like I do with some of my other beers, but listen, this is what I would expect before opening up the bottle. A little skunkiness, grainy, maybe like cracker. You know, I don't want to say, you know, I'm sure they're probably using some adjuncts like corn. Like, it kind of gives me that aroma that I get when I smell Coors a lot. There is that corny kind of aroma to it. Okay, guys, but anyway, cheers. Let's taste it. It actually tastes better than it smells. Listen, carbonation's high, which you would expect. It's got that white bread, light, maybe a touch of light, almost like just before your toast is getting toasted. It kind of is that like you can feel the bread. It feels a little bit hard. You kind of have that character to it. Maybe cracker-like at the very most. I don't get as much of the skunkiness on the flavor as I do on the aroma. Spin this. But bitterness is low, which you would expect. But look, it's cold, it's carbonated, it's quite refreshing. It is a patio crusher. It has enough malt to it. Definitely drinks better than Budweiser, Miller, Coors. Definitely does have that little more of that herbal, slightly herbal, floral hop character that you would see in typical European, German noble hops, but not a lot like a German Pilsner would be. And the malt isn't as sweet as, say, like a Munich Helles, just to kind of give you guys some comparison, because I know some of you are beer geeks. But again, this beer should not be unfamiliar to most of you. But again, every time I go back after kind of refreshing my nostrils here, you get that subtle, skunkiness. It's not as strong now as it did when I first opened it. So some of the compounds probably broke up. But listen, this is kind of like as advertised beer. Things I would say for it, I would serve this one, colder than usual. It's got a pretty good carbonation bite to it, enough maltiness to it, and hop flavor. If you can get past the skunkiness in the beginning, it's a patio crusher. Your taste buds are numb after a while. You drinking this, no big deal. But without a doubt, it's not going to be a beer that's going to put authentic German Pilsners or Munich Helles. Again, don't be surprised, because even though it looks like those beers, this definitely falls short. And not just the Stella Artois, the style a lot of times just is not going to have enough of that, nice, sharp bitterness from the hops, and the hop flavor and aroma is going to, be a lot more pronounced in a Pilsner. But look, enjoyability and overall drinkability, I'd give it, a B. It's okay. I wouldn't, I'm at someone's barbecue. And sometimes, look, I don't always drink $24 4-pack beers, that are like ranked, 99 out of 100, or, my West Flederland 12 that I've done reviews on, the one that's ranked 100, Belgian Dark Strong. I don't drink those beers all the time. Sometimes I want something that's economical, easy drinking. I don't have to think about it. All right, and this beer kind of fits it. So I'll just say B for overall drinkability, versus beers like your German Pilsners, Munich Helles. I'd bring it down to like a D plus, maybe a D. It's just not going to put those out of business. But probably would have to do a video comparing apples to apples, like Stella Artois to Peroni and other, the other international pale lagers that I mentioned, to tell you which one I would prefer the most if you wanted to go that route with your beer. But again, little skunkiness again, still on the nose, which you would expect with these green bottles, which are crazy. But listen, I've had this before. It's been a while. It's crisp, refreshing, great on the, day on the boat type of beer that you don't want to pour in a glass. You're drinking it right from the bottle. This beer would definitely fit you out. So anyway, guys, a revisit. Today's beer dissection, we're revisiting kind of a classic beer that's been around for ages, a little bit about international pale lager in general, Stella Artois, which is, I don't really know if it's really Belgian anymore. I think Budweiser has that brand. I'm not a beer snob. I would drink it. I'm not going to go my way out of it. I'm not going to, say that this is stellar, no pun intended. And until the next beer dissection or beer video in general, guys, have a great day. Take care. Bye.